Did you hear that record button, Andrea?
Yes, I heard it.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm coming to you from Senegal, and my guest is coming to you from, incredibly, Dnipro, Ukraine. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, Andrea, can you tell us what's going on right now? Obviously, you know the news and everybody's social media has been blown up with what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. I posted on my Instagram that I wanted to talk to a person from Ukraine, and incredibly, you texted me, you DM'd me saying that you were in Ukraine. So, how long have you been traveling in Ukraine, and what's going on right now?
2 months since December 31st. I've been here.
Okay, so you decided to just go for tourism, right?
No, I went for work.
Oh, you okay? And what kind of work are you doing?
I work for a logistics company that is out of Ukraine.
Really? Okay, that's crazy.
Well, we work out of the United States, but we have a support staff that is out of Ukraine.
Okay,
yes.
so that mean that's a long time. You've been in Ukraine for 3 months in the middle of the winter.
2 months, but yes, it was really cold when I first got here. Extremely cold.
Yeah, that's crazy. So I just want to ask you, I want to focus on the now. Like, what are your immediate feelings about what's going on? Like, what are you doing? What's the past 24 hours been like?
Well, it hasn't been 24 hours yet. It will be 24 hours at about
Yeah, you're right.
5 a.m. 5 a.m. Our time. So that would be it's 8:09 p.m. right now. No one really thought that this was going to happen.
Right.
Realistically, Ukraine has been, they've already had two separatist states that they've been, fighting with since 2014. And so it's something that's been ongoing already, but not with Russia. And then Monday, when Putin decided to acknowledge those two separatist states, everyone knew that something was going to happen,
Right.
So that happened, right?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you about is, so Russia began to invade in the early hours of the morning, and you're in the city of Dnipro, which, just for the listeners, is that east, west, north, south of Ukraine?
It's in eastern Ukraine. We are
so
the left bank of Dnipro is, we're in the eastern Ukraine, so we're by Donbas, which is one of the separatist states. So the left bank actually shares a border with Donbas. So
yeah, I've heard of this city before, actually. And can you, I don't know if you would consider yourself like knowledgeable enough on the subject. It sounds like you are, but so Donbas and these separatist groups, like, what is their ideology when it comes to being part of Ukraine? Obviously they don't want to be part of Ukraine, but like, what's their general ideology?
They want to be part of Russia.
Okay, so they want to be part of Russia, and you're right next to one of those cities.
Yes, like they believe that they are part of Russia.
Okay, so that's kind of how Russia got in the first place, right? They knew they had some people within Ukraine that would support them, but this is still something that's completely blown out of proportion. And what is the general feeling in Dnipro, though? Is it? I know you said it's right next to a separatist group city, but what?
It's like 200 miles away, but they share like a border with the left bank. So like Dnipro has like the center, left bank, right bank. It's one of the big cities in Ukraine. It's considered one of the big cities in Ukraine. So today, like early morning, there was an explosion because Dnipro has military field, air base, and they actually bombed that this morning.
Okay,
and
but
you could
sorry,
feel it. You could go ahead.
And I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to ask you: is Dnipro also? Would you consider them like a city that feels more Russian, or is it a a city that's not like Donbass?
No, they're really it's Ukrainian. It's not
Really?
like Donbass. No, they have there's a lot of Ukrainian pride here. They do speak Russian and Ukrainian here, so they speak both.
Okay, got it.
But
Are,
a lot of people are going back to just speaking Ukrainian. Like their mother tongue is what they say.
right, right. I mean, I'm only 28 years old, and I've always known Ukraine as its own country. Obviously, I'm not up to date with everything that's going on. I am super interested in like separatist movements though, because I mean, I've been traveling the world for a little bit, but part of my, part of the thing that I want to do during my expedition later on, when I kind of figure out is to visit these places that consider themselves their own countries. I know there's a place in Moldova, which is right there next to Russia and Ukraine, which has its own separatist nation called Transnistria. And then there's like Morocco that has like this country below it called Western Sahara. But if you tell Moroccans that, they're going to get pretty mad. It belongs to Morocco, but they say they belong to somebody else. So when it comes to Ukraine, I wasn't really like paying too much attention, and all of this happens. But I know you were just getting into what happened in the early hours of the morning. So yeah, can you walk me through like how your morning went?
Um, so there was like an explosion around like five ish, like 5:30 to 6 ish or something like that. Um, or maybe a little bit later than that. I just remember that I got a whole bunch of calls from the United States, Instagrams, Facebook messages, phone calls, like everything. And everyone was like, Russia has invaded. I was asleep. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. And
Uh-huh.
it still hadn't happened here. Like nothing had happened here in Dnipro yet. It had started off at Kyiv and Odessa. And Kyiv is where the international airport is at. So when you fly into Ukraine, you fly into Kyiv.
Right.
That was one of the first places that they bombed, that they destroyed. So now I'm trying to figure out how to get home since I can't go out of Kyiv, and I would have to go through Poland to get home, and that's over 1,000 miles from Dnipro.
Yeah, because
So there's
you're Eastern Ukraine, so you're pretty far out, and Ukraine's a big country.
mhm. And so that's over 1,000 miles on bus or train or car. Since the airspace is closed here right now, I'm actually packing my bags right now, and I'm doing it in the dark.
Okay, so and why is that? They told everybody to shut their power off, or what?
Turn off your lights, close your blinds, and not use as little light as possible.
That is unbelievable. What are your feelings right now? How do you feel?
Um, Overwhelmed.
Yeah. Okay. How long were you supposed to
Yes,
be in Ukraine if none of this had happened?
until the end of March for 90
Okay.
days. So let me tell
Okay.
you about what happened this morning then. So then I got up after everyone called me and I was like, let me take a shower, figure out what's happening, because we hadn't heard like anything here in Dnipro yet, like what was going on, right? People were asleep. So as I'm taking a shower, all of a sudden I live in a 5-story flat. The whole flat shook
Oh
as
my
I was in shock.
gosh.
And I
Crazy.
was like, and I'm in the center of Dnipro, like literally I'm in the center of Dnipro. Like this is where the life happens, kind of like
Ugh.
downtown, midtown, stuff like that. And I went out to go check and I didn't even like see anything, or I knew that something had shook. Then it happened again. And people are walking like, to catch the bus and the tram because they're getting ready to go to work this morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. And then all of a sudden you see people like leaving, not going to the tram, not going to go to the bus. They're going to, I guess, go home, get ready. I went to the store to grab some water. so that I can like, calm myself down. And at the store, there's the ATM machines, and there is like a line of like 50, 60, 70 people waiting to pull out money. Every single ATM machine in Dnipro, everywhere in Ukraine actually had lines. They were full. People just trying to pull out money because you need money to do, if you need to pay for something. I have my debit card, but you still need money, of course. But the streets are like empty. We have a curfew. We're under martial law. So at 10 o'clock is our curfew until 6 a.m. in the morning.
Wow, that's
So,
it's pretty hard to believe that you're going through this whole thing right now. So did your company or maybe you not call somebody and say, hey, because I know as of today you can't fly out of Ukraine, but did you have suspicions and did you kind of alert somebody? Did
actually,
somebody alert you
it's
that
been a couple
maybe
weeks.
you should leave?
It's been a couple weeks that you couldn't fly out of Ukraine. A
Okay.
lot of the airlines themselves have had like KMS did not want to come and see because there was already like the talks of like war and stuff, and so they had already canceled flights. Lufthansa, which is Delta, has started canceling flights. So yeah, I was like, I had already like also got a ticket so I could go back home next week, thinking everything was going to be okay this week, and I would just leave prior to when I was originally supposed to leave and be out of the chaos, but that didn't happen. So I'm here.
Okay, so you did make sort of a move to try to leave, but it was easier said than done, pretty much.
Pretty much, yes.
Okay.
There was cancellations, just stuff going on like beyond our control.
Yeah, that's crazy. Wow. So this morning, what was that like? Did you heard the strikes, and then how many of them did you hear? Like your building was shaking, and then did you hear anybody like run out of their house? Like what? How was
No,
people's reaction?
so everything here is like flats. There's not really like homes. Everyone's like in flats. Everyone was like somber, like what is going on, And then we started seeing the videos coming out of Kyiv, out of Odessa. We saw I have a friend who lives in Kyiv, another one who lives in Odessa, and just seeing the videos was like, oh my God, as to what was happening. Because here in Dnipro, they had only attacked the military base. They didn't like come into like how they did in Kyiv. They went into the international airport over there, And so it was like the international airport is like right in the middle of like downtown Kyiv. So, and then they also bombed some houses and like some flats in Kyiv. Everything's like flats here. There's like really no homes, single family homes. It's all flats. Yeah. And then like right now, hardly anyone's out there. We have like Global, which is like DoorDash. That wasn't open today. The mall was closed. Some people were going to work like nothing had happened, and a lot of things like McDonald's, KFC, some other restaurants that were closed today.
Right. So so people still went to work. Like how I just can't imagine somebody going to work after hearing their city, have bombs and be able to go to work normally. So things were still open.
Not the mall, not like the mall were not open, and not like some of the restaurants, but yeah, majority of stuff was closed, but there was, the banks were open, because we had to go get money. But majority of everything was closed.
And as far as you know, any casualties in Dnipro?
Not that I know of, but I do know that everyone after those explosions happened, earlier this morning, like around 6 o'clock in the morning, that is what we saw like earlier, like around 6:37. A lot of people were just getting their bags, packing their bags. You saw them like walking down the street, getting on a bus. There's not a lot of cars, people who own cars here. There are cars here, but a lot of people take the public transit.
Hmm.
So they were trying to get like trains, the train, the bus, whatever they. I know some people who took a taxi, kind of like an Uber, and they took it to Poland for like $500,
Oh my God.
and they're still not.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
what
but
do you
go ahead.
so who do you live with in this place? You're staying in a flat in the
I live by
in
myself, so I live by myself.
okay. And like, do you feel like your building is kind of emptied out, and like everybody's
Uh,
leaving though? Right now, I know you got the blinds shut and everything is kind of quiet, but I mean, I've seen images and footage of other cities, and it's just a huge traffic jam. People headed for Poland. So is that not what's going on in Dnipro?
oh no, people are heading for Poland or for or like Hungary or Moldova. Um, just some other place other than here. Some people are not. Majority of the people here in April haven't gone to that extent yet, but some people are.
Yeah, I just can't imagine what I would do in that situation. Like somebody attacking my city, and I mean, a lot of people have, I don't know, maybe family, but in other cities, but you still feel like you're up against the wall because you're like, well, my whole country is being attacked. It's not just one city. I can't imagine being from Ukraine and like having nowhere to go. So clearly you have to just go to the next
Well, and that's
country
the
and
thing. Well, and this is the thing. Like the people here are so like inviting and welcoming and like so friendly, and so like for me, being here, like I've worked with them while I've been in the States, with the logistics company because we did stuff through like Slack and stuff, or we call each other on the phone. So I've already had like a connection with them. But then like to meet them in person and actually have that connection with them, it's like I've known them forever. And so like my heart bleeds like not only for them, but like I feel like this is my Ukraine too,
yeah,
like they welcomed me with like open arms. And it's devastating to see like the impact that this has done. Um, it's people are just scared, right now everyone's scared and going to the store and buying provisions and stuff. Like me myself today, I'm not going to sleep on my bed. I'm probably not going to sleep tonight because my bed's by a window, so I have a hallway and I'm going to go and pat the hallway and like watch a movie there all night long. Majority of my stuff is going to have to stay here because you really only want to take what you can actually carry.
absolutely. So what's your immediate plan?
Um, right now, I am packing the bags that I'm gonna leave here because it was like really cold when I got here, so I had like big jackets, snow boots, and all that. Those are all gonna be left here. I got some snacks, some food, some fruit, waters, stuff like that, and my plan is to get on a bus tomorrow at 5 p.m. and tonight to kind of wait it out and hopefully there will be no attacks tonight or early this morning or early tomorrow morning,
I'm
like how
so
there
scared.
was.
I'm so scared as you're saying that. I'm so scared for you. I really wish for you to stay safe, and I mean, it's kind of just a lottery, but I really hope nothing happens. I know that you're in a city that's probably being less attacked than the others. That's not a factual statement at all. I don't know what's going on exactly,
Yeah.
but
Well, this is
um,
Eastern Ukraine, so this is where the separatists would like. I mean, we share a border. They share a border with the separatists, states. So there has been some rumors today circulating by a couple of people saying that Dnipro is supposed to be attacked tonight.
oh no, are you serious?
No, I'm not serious. I'm actually
Oh,
serious. So
that's
that's why I'm saying like
crazy.
I'm not gonna sleep on my bed. I'm gonna go to the hallway. That seems a little bit more safer. I'm on the fourth floor of a 5-floor building.
No
Yeah,
part of you wants to leave immediately. Like, I don't know how. Like, if you can just rent a
I do.
car
I
and take
do.
the next bus. I mean, like,
I do.
yeah.
There's where curfew is going to start in an hour and 30 minutes. So we can't even be on the streets. There's like no more
Right.
buses. The last bus left already today at 5. There's no more trains. The trains are sold out today. Other buses were sold out. We were calling to rent cars. The rental companies either wanted to charge you an enormous amount. One company was like, "Oh, we'll charge you over like 2,000 American dollars."
That's
To go to
ridiculous. I don't
Poland.
know why. Like in times of crisis, like this is a matter of life and death, and companies are still being greedy. It's almost like I feel like they should be handing out cars. Like, all right, guys, take these cars to. Okay, maybe not to that extent, but I can't believe they're doing that. It's obvious that they're gonna follow the greed, but I can't believe because this is as bad a situation as it gets.
Yeah, it is, and that's what I'm saying, because like a lot of people are like, "Well, weren't you trying to leave earlier?" Yeah, I have kids. I have kids at home, and I'm sorry, but I did, and a lot of the airline prices were like over $5,000. You know, and
Yeah.
then like when it's originally like $600 to go back home, and so like the airlines were gouging the prices, and I don't know if it was them, or I mean, of course it was them, or whatever. But like if you look too, like yesterday there was like a flight coming out like for today for like over 5,600 American dollars. So it was like everything that I looked up on this side, it was like 5,600. So it was like 1,068 hryvnias, which is Ukrainian money.
Mm-hmm.
168,000 hryvnias.
Yeah, and for the listeners, Andrea, you're originally from where in the States?
California.
Okay, I've met you in Sacramento. So is that where, if God willing, everything goes well and you're able to, and I know you will, make it back home, is it going to be Sacramento?
Correct.
Okay. Um, so then the plan is, make it through the night and take the next bus. I mean, I just feel like the level of uncertainty. I mean, do you know if that bus is going to be there at that scheduled time tomorrow? I mean, it should be, right?
We don't know. I mean, everything is like, I did have a flight beforehand and it was canceled,
So you did purchase a ticket and it was canceled.
Yeah, and then it was canceled. Then I had talked to my travel agent. Well, no, I didn't purchase it. I was about to purchase it. And she messaged me, said it was canceled. Because I go to the travel agency, and then I talked to her again, like via email, and I was like, "Hey, I really need to get out of Ukraine. Can we please try?" Because like all the tickets I was looking at were like 4,000, 3,000, like these $5,000, and I don't have like that kind of money. I have kids and stuff, and I don't have like $4,000 just to put, or $5,000 to put on a flight.
No, that's a lot of money. That's too much money
Exactly.
for. Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. That's
When
ridiculous.
when the flights are generally to go back to California from Ukraine, it's about like $600. You can even get flights for like 500 or something.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd never spend more than 200-300, maximum $400 on a ticket, and I mean to pay that much money, and I mean, yeah, I
I mean, if I had the
completely.
money, like, yeah, but then to get it canceled, and then like everyone's like, well, talk to the embassy. They're trying to give money away to people who can't pay for tickets, right? The embassy they would maybe give you a loan.
Right.
It's
I
not like
mean,
they're going to give you money, like
but
maybe they give you a loan.
you said that like these flights have been canceled for like 2 weeks, or like they've
Mhm.
suspended them for like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, some of them like KMS, Lasansa, which is Delta, that one said indefinitely until the end of February. Well, now it's indefinitely because we have been invaded.
Yeah.
So, I mean, back in 2014, I guess there was like a flight that had happened during the war back then, like in Donbass and stuff. And I guess there was like a flight from Malaysia or something. I'm not quite entirely sure, but it was like gunned down or something. So people are like scared, like
Yeah. I
it's the
mean,
whole thing. And then even if you go, like I have a friend who is on a bus today, going to Poland, and it's not like that Russia is only in Eastern Ukraine or in, like Southern Ukraine. Russia came in through Crimea, Eastern Ukraine, Western, the South. It came in through every single part of Ukraine that it could come into, Odessa, Kiev, it literally came into every part. So it's not like so people are going on these trains or on these buses and people are so scared or driving in their cars so they can get to Western Ukraine. Well, Western Ukraine was attacked. That's where Kiev is at.
yeah.
And so I can be on, my friend told me today, he's like, what if I'm on this bus and, we get like stopped by like a whole Russian like fleet of like armor and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I literally don't, like, I don't know.
That's what I was going to ask is, I mean, you can drive towards Poland, but it's either the Russians are waiting or Polish immigration is going to turn people away. Unless
No,
that's the thing
actually,
I don't.
Poland actually is going to have an open door for American citizens right now. They already stated that, and so we don't need to have a visa to go in. And they actually are,
But Ukraine
they're
does.
actually,
I mean, I know there's a lot of
no,
Ukrainians living in Poland already. I visited Poland recently, and I noticed all my Uber drivers were Ukrainian, and I spoke to them, and I found out the situation in Ukraine was a little bit worse than in Poland, because even in Poland, people weren't too happy with wages and all that kind of stuff. But what do you think? Do you think that Poland's going to let all the Ukrainians trying to cross their border?
they actually are. Poland has made like accommodations for like 1 million Ukrainians, all the neighboring countries. So yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I guess the only question is whether Russia is going to be there, kind of blocking their exit, right?
I mean, all this is a guessing game right now.
Right, right. Yeah,
Everything's a guessing game. Like my lights are off. I'm packing my bag with the light on my phone. Tell us to stay away from windows. I actually put tape on the windows because it helps with shards, like glass shards, they said. And my windows are closed, blinds are drawn, and there's no lights on. And they said to stay close to the floor as much as possible.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I just found an article here. Poland prepares for flood of Ukrainian refugees. So I'm going to read it, and maybe we can both update ourselves. It says Poland is setting up reception centers and hospitals to deal with the expected rush of people fleeing the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The Russian military launched attacks across Ukraine Thursday, including the near city of Lviv, just 85 kilometers from the Polish border. So yeah, they even attacked the little, I don't know how big Viv is
Yeah,
actually. Live or
Liv
Viv?
is actually, it's Liv.
Okay.
Liv, yeah. So that's where the American embassy is at currently. So they were at Kiev, and then they shut down at Kiev, and they went to Liv.
Wow. So it says the government is setting up 8 reception centers near crossing points on the 500-kilometer Polish-Ukrainian border, which should be ready by the afternoon. Okay, that's amazing that Poland is doing this, Imagine if the neighboring countries just shut down and just went, nope, can't take this. I don't want to be involved in this. So Poland is the real MVP right here.
Yeah, Poland, a lot of people have gone to Hungary as well. So, and they're welcoming Ukrainians there as well. Yeah.
It says there was no immediate reports of a surge of people trying to cross into Poland, but the health minister, Sef Fernaker, said Poland's border crossings with Ukraine were only moderately busy. Okay, so in my head, I'm thinking there's hundreds of thousands of people trying to cross, but apparently it's been like a moderate surge. It says, at this moment, we aren't yet seeing an inflow of refugees from Ukraine. Border crossings are operating normally. The Polish press reported that a train from Kiev pulled into the main Warsaw rail station on Thursday morning, filled with panicked people. About 1.5 million Ukrainians already live in Poland, coming to take advantage of the tight labor market and similar language. The government said in early February that it would accept even 1 million Ukrainian refugees if necessary. Okay,
Yeah.
well,
And then the US government is actually at the border, one of the border entrance into Poland, so they can greet American citizens.
I'm happy that there's an actual way out, and I can't wait to follow what's going to happen with you. And if you can, try to grab your phone and talk into kind of like a vlogging style, or maybe just voice record yourself, because I think what you're going through right now, as traumatic and as bad and just fearsome as it is, it's going to really open people's ears, open people's eyes into what's going on, and get a feel for what you're going through, because it's just such a
Well,
unique situation.
yeah, what I don't think people understand is that this is like the precursor, like if Russia gets away with this, like then you have China, and all these other, it's a precursor that could be like World War III. So that's why people are like so vested in this whole, because like if Russia takes over Ukraine, that's like they become like the superpower,
Right.
and they just don't want to acknowledge that Ukraine is its own like culture, its own country, they have their own language, they have their own culture.
I've been kind of reading, so I'm clearly not like an expert on the subject. I'm mostly here to ask questions, but I have done a little bit of research today as to what the Russians like side and their take on this whole situation, because to fully understand something, you at least have to listen to the other side. You may not agree even 1%, but what I heard from from Putin himself was, and for those who don't know, there's this alliance, this group of nations called NATO, and Ukraine is not currently part of that, and Ukraine wants to join that. And Russia feels like, okay, well, they're getting that close, that like allegiance of nations, of Western nations, is getting so close to Russia. So that's why they kind of had to, go into Ukraine and put a stop to that. And according to Putin, he's tried and asked to be part of NATO for a long time, and pretty much been laughed out of there. So I think that's his perspective. That sort of makes me understand. I don't agree, but if he's thinking I'm being cornered here, I have this ideology, and here comes the West with their ideology, and Ukraine is in the middle of both of us, and they want to join the West. I mean, that definitely puts pressure on Russia. The other thing that Putin said that I didn't really understand, and I haven't really researched about, was that it's some sort of Nazi movement in Ukraine, and he had to go into Ukraine to stop it. Which,
yeah,
whatever.
so he was talking about genocide. He was talking about genocide, and there's Nazism here and stuff. So yes, so people know, Ukraine actually has the largest. And I have pictures of it I can send you. But it has the largest Jewish community in Dnipro, and it has the largest Jewish synagogue.
Right.
And the president and president from Ukraine himself is Jewish.
Right. So there goes the argument out the window. Not that he had to, give legitimate proof to do what he did, but it's just ridiculous that he can come out with that, right?
Yeah. That's what the president of Ukraine, he went on today, and he was like, I'm Jewish. Like,
yeah.
Excuse me,
Wow. This whole time you've been talking to me, I've been kind of out of breath. I just, this whole thing, and hearing it from you, I think that energy is transferring to where I can feel like just get a little bit of a grip of imagination of what you might be going through. So, Andrea, like I said, please try to record yourself. If you're able to sleep, like what you're thinking, if you can record things, and then tomorrow I'm going to check in with you, and talk to you again and see if you're able to take the bus, and you're able to make your way to Poland. The last question that I had is this bus going to take you all the way from the Dnipro to the Polish border, or how many like stops do you have to make, or do you have to take any other trains or buses?
It's supposed to be, it goes like to, I'm actually not sure. My friend who's on there right now said that they've already made like 3 stops, and it's like 14, 15, 16-hour drive because it's over 1,000 miles.
But what I'm so you all you have to do is take that bus, and then it's going to stop and pick more people up. But that's the only thing you have to do is make it tomorrow, make it into that bus tomorrow. That bus is going to leave, and then its final destination is the Polish border.
Correct.
Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better, because I was always thinking maybe you have to take this bus and get off in the middle of nowhere and then have to figure out where to go from there. But it seems like
Yeah.
it's a pretty straight shot, even though it's so far away.
Yeah, I mean, and it does make some stops, like how my friend said today. But I mean, he's giving me like updates on how the trip is going, and like what they're seeing on the way there.
And
He said
what
it's
did he
just like
said?
the usual. He said it's just a usual bus ride. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. A lot of people who are in the bus that are scared,
Hmm.
leaving their whole lives behind,
Yeah, they just
which is
packed
kind
their
of,
bags and left.
yeah. I mean, and they don't know when they can come back. Like, and that's kind of like how I feel, because like I'm like a reader and I love books, and like I'm leaving a ton of books here. And in the grand scheme of things, that doesn't really matter, but like I can feel some of them, of what it feels like to leave your life behind. Like you're leaving a part of yourself. Like I'm leaving bags of winter clothes here and shoes, and hopefully someone can use them when they find it here and what have you. But like I literally am taking a small bag in a backpack so that I can, if we need to walk, if for whatever reason anything happens, the bus breaks down, or we're totally get off, or whatever reason, I can carry my belongings still.
Right. It's just incredible to think about. Another thing that shocked me that I saw that kind of put everything into a more focused perspective is like the president. I think it was the president, I may be mistaken, but he said, if you are Ukrainian and you want to defend your country, come and pick up your arms. And it's like,
Yeah.
wow, imagine,
I
like,
actually
that's crazy.
And actually, it's not only for Ukrainians, it's anybody who has a passport here and who is willing to fight for Ukraine.
That's crazy. And as
Because
of right
I
now,
don't,
go ahead.
well, I don't know. Yeah, right. Like anyone who wants to, like they can go pick it up in arms, or, what have you. They were having like civilians trained like last week at the parks and stuff, the week before. But the thing I don't think people realize is Ukraine is actually very much like the United States, as in like California, where it's like a melting pot. You have people here from like Tunisia, from Ghana, from France, from there's Russians here. There's people from like California. They come here from different parts of the world for like an education, because it's cheaper here,
Mm-hmm.
or to work, or because they're like an English teacher. So you have a lot of Americans, not a lot, but you have some Americans here,
Mm-hmm.
And so like, it's not like you're only looking at Ukrainians or, Russians. You're looking at like maybe someone that's from Tunisia, or someone who is Indian from Pakistan, or from what have you, like I've met all these people here during my time here.
Yeah.
And they as much love Ukraine. Like Ukraine is theirs as well. And I'm telling you, like the feeling that Ukraine and the people give you, like I feel like Ukraine is like I belong here. Like I belong to Ukraine too. Like Ukraine, like I love Ukraine,
Mm-hmm.
just the way that they're welcoming, the way that they are. At least that's my experience that I've had here. A lot of people say the same thing. It might not be true for everyone, but my experience is that. is just open arms and it's welcoming. And I don't
Yeah,
know, so I feel
it's
like
a
I'm leaving. Yeah.
it's a country that I've always known about. I've always known the world through the lens of sport because I'm a huge soccer fan. And when I was a kid growing up in Colombia, I knew all the countries of the world because of their football teams. And even as recently as this last year that the Euros happened, like this international competition between European teams, Ukraine had has a great team and had a great run in the tournament. So I still, I see Ukraine as this big, powerful, independent nation, and to see Russia come in there and do what it's doing today. And I've heard great things about the people. I was planning on going to that area of the world in the summer if I had the health and the ability to. And it's sad to think about how not just me, I can't go there and see what the people are all about and what the culture is all about. But it's like what happened with Syria. People, yeah, I heard so many stories about. I spent a lot of time in the Middle East, and I always hear great things about Syria before all of the stuff that happened. Right before they became pretty much like the number one refugee,
Hmm.
the place with the biggest refugee crisis in the entire world. Um, and I remember talking to people like, what was Syria like before then? They're like, it was the best, one of the best Middle Eastern countries. Like people had 3, 4 cars, good jobs, and from one day to the next, everything changed. And that's just so hard for me to think about. And I really hope that that doesn't happen to Ukraine.
Well, that's how it is here. Like I mean, like I told you, I live in the center of town. Like I literally, like it's called the center,
Hmm.
and I'm literally, I can have my window open or just my blinds open. I can see, like, I don't know if you've seen any of my stories, but I have like, people out there, like they're ice skating or they're doing all this stuff. And it's just out there and there's bands playing and, all this music and all this stuff going on and people just congregating outside. And, everyone walks here, kind of like Midtown and downtown in Sacramento. So everyone walks here, to the bar, to the restaurant, to whatever. And you see families out, you see, friends out, you see all this stuff. It's not like that today. Even today on a Thursday, it would be like people are out there, not like that at all. It's in the hryvnia is also like losing value. Like now it's like 31 or 32 to a dollar. When I first got here, it
Right.
was at 27, but it's going up. It keeps on going up. It keeps on going up. It's losing value. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I hope it doesn't. I hope it continues to be like the great people it is, the country and all that. But they're going. It's a lot. It's a lot for your homeland, like to be someone to come and try to like take it over.
And that's the thing is, we're from the United States, and we feel like we always feel protected, right? We're this huge, powerful nation. We know our
And you know what?
military
I
is one
don't
of the
feel that way
biggest.
right now.
Okay,
I don't feel that way right now.
I'll tell you how I feel, and you're right. I mean, I think my feeling has changed, but I'll give it to you as a comparison. Like being from Colombia, if a big power was coming and trying to pick on Colombia, I would be scared for my life if I was still living there. I'd be like, we have no chance. We have if somebody wants to come in here and do something. I'm happy that Colombia is friends with the United States and has always had good diplomatic relations. But let's say I was this other nation in a different continent, and there was different allegiances. I would be so scared if like a big power came, and or if maybe my country just happened to be in like this strategic political spot where it just happened to be stuck in the middle of something like Ukraine is. I would be like, oh my God, like couldn't imagine. What I was trying to say with the United States reference is I do feel more protected because I know we do have one of the biggest militaries in the world. And so we don't have to go out there like these Ukrainian. I mean, I feel like that may happen, right? Like if you're in the States and let's say the president announced, if you have a passport, come and grab your gun. Like I don't think the US would ever get to that. I think we have a big enough military. but in Ukraine, that is happening. Like it's happening to where you, as a civilian, have to consider going out there, and by just showing your passport, pretty much get ready for war.
Yeah, and this, I mean, it's not only Ukrainians; it's anyone that has a passport here that's here at this time.
Yeah. So you could go get a passport and get a gun.
But that's the thing is that, and then like we've seen these like, news articles or these, social media posts, and there's like literally these little old ladies who are like in their 70s, 75, and these old men, and they're out there doing this training as well to protect their Ukraine. It's their Ukraine. Like,
yeah.
There is this pride about Ukraine, and it's beautiful. I've never known nothing like, I've never known anything like it at all. We're from America. We don't really have a pride in anything.
Mm-hmm. Well,
like,
yeah, we're just this, as I travel the world, and I've been so blessed to be able to compare all these different countries and continents. Like the US, it's its own thing. I mean, it's so hard. We do have our own culture. We do have things that we can say this is very American, but we're just like this sample of the entire world as a country. So you're right. It's not like this well drilled, like independent mentality that this is who we are. And that's something, like, you've been there in Ukraine and you've seen that, they are so like Ukrainian in their own ways.
Oh yeah. And they're a very proud nation. And, everyone's like, it's just, I don't know. It's a beautiful thing to see. Someone that's that proud of their culture, and they have beautiful, like I was here December 31st and, after Christmas, right? So I was here during New Year's. New Year's was amazing, but they had Christmas things up until the first week of February. Christmas is like, it's like their life here, like during the winter, it's so beautiful. And like the way they decorate everything, and they put lights everywhere. It's just elegant, it's beautiful, and they do it right.
Yeah. I'm hoping
that
for the
cozy feeling.
best.
Me too.
I'm hoping for the best.
Yes, but I'm gonna go try to finish packing, because I need to have my things by the door in case if anything happens tonight. Hopefully it does not.
Yo, Dre, I'm praying for you. I'm thinking of you. Please, I'm gonna keep DMing you throughout the night because I think we're on similar time zones. What time is it there right now? Right here, it's 6:55 p.m. Okay, so you're 2 hours ahead of me. So we're on similar time zones. I'm gonna keep texting you, and try, like I keep saying, like, try to record yourself, like, talking through this. And this is the type of content that I'm not saying like you should release or anything, but it's just it's unique, and I really wish for you to make it out of Dnipro safely. And please keep me updated tomorrow.
I will.
All right.
Thank you.
Absolutely.